To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's make like a cactus and go over to that place. My dumbass forgot I was on keto and ate corn on the cob last night, which I guess in the grand scheme of things, I mean, eating some sort of plant still in its plant form, I guess is better than eating junk, but it ain't keto, so kind of wasted a day there. There's even a few times back when I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker when I'd try to quit smoking, and if I didn't make sure that there were no cigarettes anywhere, I could just get up the next morning and just accidentally go have a cigarette. Like I could decide at 11 p.m. this is my last cigarette, I'm not smoking anymore. Next morning, just get up, not even think about it, walk outside to the porch, as I always did. Just walk out to the porch and sit down, just pick up a pack, have a cigarette, and get halfway through it before I remembered that I was gonna quit. And I don't know why, but for me, I needed my quitting to start and have a full day of no smoking. It's like if I had one cigarette at the beginning of the day, I definitely wasn't going to be officially quitting that day. Good morning, Mike. Good to see you, brother. Look at this morning. Another nice one. Yesterday was a super successful day. I got my 𝗪𝗪𝗪 all hooked up with email, done in a pretty safe way. I mean, there's no, the safest way is to not give it email access. Second safest way is to give it its own sandbox email address with no history and only the ability to send. That's the second safest. But still, I mean, I got it set up to where it can read one folder. No, take that back. Actually, I have it set up to where it can read my entire inbox at Bulletproof Handyman Business at gmail.com. So that's good news. I got that all set up. Actually, I think I had that set up before my hike yesterday, didn't I? Got a bunch of other stuff set up on it, though. I played around with it. Well, I wouldn't say play. I worked most of the day, but anytime my work required me to sit and wait for some kind of result, I was immediately jumping back over to my DGX Spark to play with the 𝗪𝗪𝗪. So that went well. I got 𝗪𝗪 edited. I was telling y'all yesterday that was really the big thing on the to-do list that absolutely had to be done. So I did get that done. I got my video for 𝗪𝗪 edited. I'm sure I'll be publishing it today. I got the next video, I think, fully outlined. I still feel like I need to touch it up just a little bit, but it's basically fully outlined. Played around with my estimator tool a little bit more. Found one or two more little bugs, not big ones. Got them fixed. God. Hull's Handyman, good morning. And Cassidy Farmsworth, good morning, guys. Good morning to all y'all. My buddy Chris's daughter's name is Cassidy. It's a nice name. It's not a super common name. Hopefully, about a year and a half from now, I'll be having a little Lucy Pearl. Lucy Pearl Duke. What else did I get done yesterday? I feel like it was more productive than just that. I ran some errands in town that needed to be run. Also went and picked up more steak. Really good steak. We got, what was it, ribeye? Yeah, we had ribeye for $8 a pound, which I've seen better. That's not the best deal in the world. Well, I'll tell you what, it's not a bad deal either. And when you're trying to be keto, you'd be surprised cost-wise if you're just eating meat. Not that keto keeps you on just meat, but when you are eating just meat or mostly meat, you'd be surprised how little of it you actually need. You get very satiated very quickly because it is so nutrient dense. Jared said grand rising. Yeah, there we go. It's too bad there's headlights in the way, but there's a pretty view. And 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 said, hey bro, I'm 𝗪𝗘𝗔𝗥𝗡. I don't know what that means, man. Mike said, I hope everyone's doing well. I'm up to my neck in work. Wish the same for all of you. Ain't nothing better than being up to your neck in work. Best stress in the world is having too much work to do and trying to figure out how can I get all this damn work done and still spend time with my family. Actually, that's not the best stress in the world, I suppose. I could think of better ones, but that's a pretty damn good one to have. And the great news is that's when you get to fire some clients. That's when it's time to fire some clients. Well, that dude, my God, I just almost watched a T-bone happen. There we go. Tim Schlaubuck, good to see you too, buddy. Got a little bit of the crew in here today. Did you hear that? That's a northern cardinal. The northern cardinals make the, I call it the ray gun, the Star Trek ray gun sound. It's like beep, 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 beep. He's shy now because we're watching. Sharp Black Soft, good morning. 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 said, I'm dead 2018, bro. Man, I don't know what you're saying. I feel like somebody's on some drugs. Yeah, Joe hears a rooster. You always hear a rooster out here. I don't know if most people know this, but roosters don't really care if it's sunrise either. They do crow a little bit more at sunrise. They also crow at 1 a.m. They also crow at 10 p.m. They also crow at 3 a.m., at lunchtime, at dinner time, and essentially all times of day. But they do crow a little bit more in the morning. And my experience, usually before the sun's up. They're not crowing at a sunrise. They're usually, like the peak is before it's peaking above the sunrise, even up to like an hour before. Joe has a rooster. Mike said full week of work, 6 pending projects, plus had a meeting with one of the largest property managers in my town. Been trying to get with them for a year. I'll be onboarding with them this week. Nice. Very nice. Mike is a very good example of how you can just build your business and be a professional and well, I won't talk about his income, but he's a very good example of how you can build your business and just be a professional, you know, and succeed, and just suddenly find yourself a small business owner with his bills paid and money to head to a handyman camping convention every now and then, or to just fly out to Arizona for a few days for no reason. Speaking of that, I think me and Chris are gonna set up our next camping trip soon. We've gotten to the point now where we just we schedule a trip, we take the trip, and we don't necessarily schedule the next trip right away, but we usually end up getting the next trip on the schedule within a couple weeks. And then maybe the schedule has it a month or two out, but we try to just make sure the schedule gets filled back in quickly. And we didn't do that this time. So probably gonna schedule another camping trip with Chris soon. And in lieu of having sponsors for these cabin stay events and campouts, in lieu of sponsorship, I think what I'm gonna do is just plan this trip with Chris. I'm gonna post it on the channel as an event. And if any of y'all just wanna show up down here in Arizona, you know, you'll be responsible for getting yourself here and all that, but I do have plenty of gear that you can borrow. I'm not paying for your food, but as long as you want to pay for your food, I can typically give you a hand as far as having something to cook it on and things like that. But, you know, if you're not experienced camping, it'll be a nice, comfortable camping trip if you decide to come down here. Of course, it's even better if you're up here and you have your own gear, but I don't mind one bit loaning out some camping gear and letting you cook on all of my cooking equipment and just kind of including you in the dudes weekend. Just gonna be me and Chris though, as usual. Man, we got some weird dudes in here today. Gopher said, nice beard, bro. Oh my goodness. Well, we got a lot of weird dudes in here today. I don't know what's going on with that algorithm. By the way, anybody new in here, I did get the estimator tool published yesterday, so that's available on bulletproof-handyman.com. You can upload a video and some information, and it'll basically try to not tell you what to charge, but it will tell you its opinion about how long the job will take, what you should charge, what materials you need. Should give you links to the materials. It should give you links to local businesses that specialize in whatever that job is, like smaller local businesses that typically are happy to help a brother out every now and then when somebody shows up with a weird situation and a question. Those small businesses, man, those are really some of the best to get in your pocket. And I don't mean that in any kind of bad way. Some people use that phrase in a bad way. I just mean, you know, to add to your collection of what do you call it? I don't know, your community. You know, get to know them, shop at their business, keep their business alive by shopping at their business and sending them business. Make it clear that you're local and that you're a fan of local businesses. And when the time comes, these guys, you know, you'll walk in there someday with a video and a bunch of pictures on your phone trying to show them something weird that you ain't never seen before. And there's gonna be a guy there that wants to help you. And that's priceless. That's worth way more than just saving a few pennies by going to the big box store. And you can do both, you know. You can still shop at Home Depot, but also make an effort to frequent your local suppliers. Paul's Handyman said, how do you mean weird? Well, you just got to read some of the comments. I'm weird. I'm sure you're weird too, Paul. We're all weird. It's a little different kind of weird today, but that's all right. I suppose any comments are good for the algorithm anyways. Oh, it's about baby quail time of year. All the baby quail are going to be out in just a minute. There's a big, beautiful American flag. Any day now. I want to say, yeah, it's March. I know I'm always seeing a bunch of baby quail in March. And we're in February now, so they'll be coming out anytime. There's mama quail. Oh, my sinuses, my lungs, my throat, all of it feels pretty bad today. I'm starting to feel like I might have been exposed to somebody that had some kind of cold or something. I can't tell if I'm trying to catch a cold or if I'm just getting a couple symptoms and fighting it off. Usually for me, it's just a few symptoms and I fight it off. Mike said just people scrolling through live streams. I figured. Harvey said, let's go. Thank you for promoting the local lumberyard 84 here. Nice. Yeah, I like all the local places. One of my favorites here in Tucson is called Bonnets and Stems. And really interesting story because the guy that owns and runs it now, I can't remember what he said his original career was, but he went to college to be, pretty sure it was some kind of engineering job, some sort of highly technical engineering type job, and spent half his life doing that job. And then one day his parents, who ran a plumbing store here, one day his parents just were too old, you know, to do it anymore. And it was one of those options of shut it down or the son comes home and takes it over. And the son was kind of sick of the world, which I don't blame him, then or now. He was just kind of sick of the world. Decided to come back and run his parents' business. And although he wasn't any kind of plumber by trade, or even, he wasn't even an amateur plumber. Plumbing wasn't one of his, you know, things. But he came back and just learned the whole business. And he didn't learn it from the plumber side. He learned it from the plumber's supplier side. He just learned it by needing to order all the parts and hearing all the stories and seeing all the frustration and figuring out what the pain points were and finding products that fix those. And now, if you're like a handyman, just like me, just some random, even when I first started out, just this random $25 an hour chuck in the truck that I was, gave me the cell phone number. The store had its own cell phone with a number that was there just for the purpose of being able to send pictures and videos. And you could be on a job, see something you've never seen before, not be a plumber. They don't care if you're a licensed plumber. See something that you've never seen before, take a picture or a short video, send it to that number. And it might be a half hour, you know, it's not like they're standing by just waiting for you. But as soon as they have a chance, they check that phone and they'll text you back and tell you what it is you're looking at, whether or not they have it in stock, what you need to do to fix it. Really amazingly helpful people. And their pricing is fine. Their pricing is good. I'm not saying you can't get a valve stem for $1.25 cheaper at Home Depot, but who cares? Your client's paying for it, you know? $1.25 to keep a real local business alive. You go to Home Depot and show them a random picture of some fixture from the 50s that nobody ever has to work on because the company that made it only existed for a year and a half in 1952. They're not gonna know. They're not gonna be able to help you. Harvey said, hi. Cassidy said, what area is everybody in? I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City, the land of the Mormons. Mormons are actually, I think this is all Mormons up here. These houses on the right. I'll show y'all. I'll show you something. Well, you're not going to be able to read the sign, but if you look over here, if you look right here, the road forks to the left and right. To the left is public. To the right is private. There's even a sign here as you go through the little dip there. There's the sign over there that you can see the camera on top of the pole, and the sign says that it's recording. But it's very clear that this is private. But it's not just one house. It's not this guy. This whole area is full of houses over to the right there. And just my own personal experience, generally when you see something like that, it's not only Mormons, there are a couple other niches of people that will do that, but the Mormons are really good at doing that. They're really good at working as a team, pooling resources, and making bigger things happen. And I don't blame them. If I was, I'm not any particular kind of religious, but if I really, really was, and I really valued my relationship with my community that way, if I could be in a community that would do something like purchase 100 acres, and section it off and let church members each purchase their own little piece of that 100 acres. And then the Mormon who does the cement slabs is pouring your cement slab, and the Mormon who does the framing is doing your framing. I don't mean for free. They're all businesses. I'm just saying, working together to make a community happen. So you never know. Could be just a weird little private HOA too, but I tend to think that this is likely going to be Mormons over there. They're just too organized. Nobody else is organized that way. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. Mike said, what's up, y'all? Philip said, one of the most things that I was ever told is a normal person is just someone that you don't know very well. It's true. Harvey said, ha ha, Philip. Cassidy said, good fishing at Strawberry Reservoir. Are you talking about near Strawberry, Arizona, or somewhere else? Paul, hello, Paul. Good to see you, sir. Paul said, howdy, Ray, and everyone. Paul's handyman service. A different Paul said, I'm out of Kansas City personally. Mike said, morning, Paul. Paul's handyman said, morning, Paul. Welcome in, Paul Dardo. Paul's my favorite. All of y'all other ones, I barely like most of y'all. Paul's my favorite. Harvey said, I was hired at 84 based on my work experience to be able to help the younger salesmen with takeoffs. Oh, that's neat. That's cool. I've never really worked on takeoffs, but it's a whole system that makes sense to me if you're building houses and stuff. Or I suppose even if you're, doing some pretty major remodeling. Cassidy said, hello, Kansas. Harvey said, thank you. Oh, my nose is so itchy. Ricky's Armed Kitchen said, sir, I have my first stain and deck remodel. How do I bid that, sir? You know what? I'm gonna actually give you an answer for the first time. My default answer is, this is just a, default. So for y'all who aren't super familiar with my channel, my pricing goes way deeper than this. But since I can't tell people what to charge for their individual projects without being there and knowing their economy, knowing their clients and all that, my answer is figure out how long it's going to take you. Figure out how much money you need to be getting paid per hour. And every one of those statements, boy, I can dive for an hour or two into what that really means. But figure out how long, figure out what you need to be charging billable per hour on the job with tools in hand, and multiply your rate times the time, add a 15-20% buffer, figure out what materials you need, add a 15 or 20% buffer. You know, that's that's a generally safe answer. But what I feel like you ought to do now, since I built the tool, is go to bulletproofhandyman.com and try my project estimator tool, because what it's going to allow you to do is upload a video of your project, has to be under 1 minute, and provide a brief description of your project. Well, actually, I shouldn't say brief. Provide a thorough description of your project. Provide a thorough video and a thorough description of everything that you need to be doing. Film it from the top, the bottom, the left, the right. 1 minute of really good video and an extremely thorough description of what you're doing. And then run it through that project estimator, which I have tied into a bunch of different AIs for different purposes. And it might accidentally give you a pretty good answer. And it's free right now. I will be charging when I feel like it's done, when I feel like it's truly done and just doing a great job of giving great answers, let's say more than 90% of the time, which honestly, it might already be there. I will start charging something for it, because it costs me, well, the costs keep going up. The first version cost me less than a penny per generation because I was using a cheap AI and I was using a cheap and easy quick. My process was essentially not a lot different than just uploading it to ChatGPT and just asking ChatGPT some questions. But the current version right now is costing me about $1.50 per generation worth of AI tokens, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. It takes a lot of AI crunching to get that AI to the point that you ended up having to pay $1.50 for that particular round of crunching. That's a lot. Drink some coffee, man. So yeah, go try that tool out. All of y'all, by the way, any projects you have, or if you just want to be useful. If you just want to be useful and test it out for me, don't worry about the fact that it costs me money. You gotta spend money to make money. You gotta spend money to, like, there's no way around testing this thing. Has to happen. And I'd rather test it on projects that y'all are knowingly putting in as a test, so you're knowing to take the results with a grain of salt, than to have the testing be me claiming that it's ready and just letting people see what happens. Beautiful field of flowers over here, man. I'm gonna show you all these flowers. It's just too much. It's just too much. Can you see that? I don't think you actually... There we go. That's a good view. See all them? It's just a carpet of yellow flowers. But anyways, try out that tool. But at the same time, you know, when I say figure out how much time it's going to take you, I want to point out, for me, and I don't hear many people saying this word, so I don't know if I might be the weirdo here, but the phrase I always used and still do is visualize the job. And visualize really specifically means kind of closing your eyes, building your own mental model of the project, and slowing down. You know, if you visualize pulling a crowbar out and ripping up some boards, then you already haven't visualized properly, because you didn't visualize all the things that were necessary to even get to that point. You got to visualize the visualizing, visualize the planning, visualize loading the tools up, visualize looking at your tools, imagining with each tool, you know, is this a tool I'm going to need on this job? Visualize the Home Depot run. Visualize, you know, if you're staining, do a little bit of research. What different types of stains are there? Should I spray it on? Should I use a rag to rub it on? Or should I use a brush to rub it on? If I use a brush to get it on, should I use a rag to get it off, or should I let it just soak in? All of those questions matter. There's so many more questions. And you've really got to spend a little bit of time visualizing that job And if you don't know, which, I mean, you don't because you asked the question. So if you don't know exactly what it's going to take, understand that you'll be wrong. So try to make sure that if and when you're wrong in the direction of charging too much and not too little. Because most handymen, they think their job is to make their clients happy, which is, no business ever succeeded by saying our job is to make our clients happy. Your job as a business is to provide your clients with a great product or service at a fair price. That's your actual job. It's not to make your clients happy. Your clients don't even know what they want in the first place. But visualize the job, you know, worst case scenario, figure out how many hours or days you need to set aside, and then decide based on that how much to charge, based on hourly rate or day rate, however you want to put your rates together. But I really think you should go use that tool at bulletproof-handyman.com. It's in the tools folder. Click on project estimator and just play with it. Today I'll be doing a little more editing to the 𝗪𝗪 video. Do a little more of that, and then probably publish that, I suppose. It's not going to be super entertaining. 𝗪𝗪 used to be Open Phone. I found them as a phone number business phone provider, like digital business phone provider, when I was building Founders and Fathers. So I used them for building Founders and Fathers. They were just the best one that I could find when I needed to find it. And then weirdly, like 2 weeks later, after I had independently stumbled upon them and chosen them, 2 weeks later, I'm gonna have to show you all these hawks real quick. Oh, look at that moon too, that's pretty. Get the hawks and the moon in the same shot. There we go. Down here, if you want to find any birds of prey, all you got to do is look at the tops of the telephone poles. You'll pretty much always be able to find them there. I know those don't look super big, but those are actually pretty large. If you look at the scale of where they're at. Those are very tall poles. Anyhow. But yeah, 2 weeks later, they reached out wanting to know if I wanted to partner with them. Because, you know, handyman businesses, well, I don't want to say need a business phone. You don't need a business phone. But some of y'all would prefer a business phone as opposed to using your phone. So I'll publish that today. It's just a walkthrough. It gets you through the federal steps. You know, there's federal regulations in place that make it harder for a business to text people because of all the spam. So they have a really easy setup to get you through getting that regulatory approval. But then what's cool is in the future, if you want to, you can send out mass SMS messages. So when you have 300 clients under your belt and maybe you just hired a new employee and you want to bump up your workload a little bit to make sure everybody stays busy, you can just shoot out a mass text to everyone offering a discount or something. So that's pretty cool. I had to have it because I had to have it because I was on Founders and Fathers. I needed to set it up where I got permission from everybody on the website to be able to text them. And that's how I found them, was because in the process of needing to be able to set that up properly, just used AI, did some learning about the process, and found out you have to have a business number to be able to do that, and you have to go through these regulatory steps with a disclaimer, and you have to have a customer service number for the website that people can call or text, and that they do actually go check that that number works. So I had to go jump through all those hoops just to be able to do the texting. That's how I found them. Cassidy said, hello, Kansas. Harvey said, thank you. Ricky's Armed Kitchen said, sir, I have my... Oh, I already read that one. There we go. Harvey said it only took 35 years to get a cushy job. Good for you, sir. I'm sure you deserve it. Mike said, hey, brother. This is Mike Bobo. I'll just call you Bobo since we already have Mike Neal in here. Mike said, hey, brother, I study body mechanics and can't help but notice a limp. Get well soon. I was limping last week, slipped on ice up here in Maine. Yeah, I got a... What do I have? I have a whole mess of... So I've got 3 discs that are flattened. Luckily, they don't hurt anymore. They hurt during the years that they were flattening. During that flattening process as they were leaking. That was painful. If y'all don't know, inside your disc is a fluid that's like an irritant to the inside of your body. So when you screw your back up in a way that your discs are leaking fluid into your body doesn't like that at all. And it gets all inflamed and stuff. But at the same place, I have a torn ligament. And that thing gets uppity every now and then, I guess. And then I have a bone spur too, at the same place. And what I've got going on, apparently, this is according to the surgeon, what I've got going on is 3 flattened discs, plus the ligament issue, plus the discs leaking aren't an issue anymore, plus the bone spur though. So when you put it all together, what ends up happening is I just have a very sensitive lower back. It went out, I'm gonna say twice, I could say 10 times, depends on how you define going out, but I'll put it to you this way. There's been 2 occasions in my life that when I say my back went out, what I mean is I had to roll out of bed onto the floor. I couldn't stand up out of bed for a few weeks each time. I had to roll out of bed onto the floor, crawl, I guess is the word, crawl my way to the bathroom, and then, use the toilet and the wall to pull myself up onto the toilet just to be able to get closer to being upright. Wasn't even about using the bathroom. I think we all do in the morning, but wasn't even about that. It was just I needed to crawl onto something to pull my way up, to just sit upright, and then very slowly start using the wall to get fully upright. Then I had to walk around on my tiptoes, and I'm talking about like little 3-inch baby steps on my tiptoes, just barely moving. The slightest anything, well, a sneeze wasn't even slight. A sneeze was devastating. That would put me right back on the ground. But the slightest little extra quick movement or any muscle flinching near my back would just set the whole thing off again, and I'd be on the floor again. I'd wake up in the middle of the night because I toss and turn a lot. I get hot in bed easy. And in the middle of the night, I would toss and turn, like subconsciously while I'm asleep. And I would just wake up screaming. But the good news is the discs got all flattened out. And after they're out of fluid and they stop trying to make new fluid to replace the fluid they lose, when they finally just fully flatten out, oddly enough, you'd think that you should be in pain, but no, that's actually a lot less pain because you don't have the fluid irritating everything anymore. Anyways, I do have a bit of a bone spur on my left foot, or I had a big one. And I know how crazy this sounds, but I feel like my body's dissolving it or building scar tissue around it or something, because as painful as it used to be, it's getting better and better. But the limp you see is in part because this bone spur that I didn't have until a year ago, over the last year, even though it's a little better now, I learned to walk differently to keep from hurting it, to keep it from being painful. And my whole life I've learned to walk differently. I've just always had, since my back went out, I've always had something of it's not even exactly a limp. I kind of just turn sideways like this because of the way that my left leg, I don't really use it as a shock absorber the way most people do. I kind of sort of throw it out and straighten it, like a board, and then kind of lean on that board and then come back from it. That's an exaggeration, of course, but that's what it feels like when I'm walking on it. And that's what you see in the limp. And what I found, I used to try to straighten it out, like actually straighten out my posture and my walk and get rid of the limp, because I was younger and for some reason gave a shit what people thought back then. But I'd try to very mindfully, you know, think about how both of my legs are moving, where my balance is, how my feet are landing, and I would try to straighten myself out and kind of get more like equally bilateral about it. And I'll tell you what the first symptom was, as soon as I tried to do that, is my back would start hurting like hell, specifically that old injury. So I'm guessing, because the surgeon said the biggest thing that was bothering me was the torn ligament is what was kind of throwing everything else off. Because anytime I would stress that torn ligament, that's what would kick in all the inflammation. But man, anytime I try to straighten that walk out, I would have like real problems, like real painful problems for days. And I had to just go back to limping, you know, for it to not hurt. Larry said, I'm in Arizona. Are you? Yeah, I'm in Tucson, depending on who you're talking to. Might have been talking to Cassidy too. Harvey said, Mississippi here, right on. LARP said, have you been to the Verde Valley? You said Strawberry, Arizona. I don't know what you call the Verde Valley, I guess. I have been, dude, nothing against Payson. Actually, you know what? I have not been to Strawberry. I have not been all the way to Strawberry. What I have done is I've driven, so me and Emily like to go to Show Low, Pine Top, Lakeside, Snowflake, that whole area. Me and Emily like to go there. That's like our little getaway. It's pretty affordable for us to, we could take a weekend there. And as long as I can afford to take the time off of work, you know, the money doesn't cost much to go there. But we decided one weekend, let's do check out Payson. Keep about Payson, specifically Strawberry Pine. And said, let's just go sort of check out Payson. Everybody talks about it. Supposedly it's more expensive and stuff, but whatever. We went, and man, I don't want to sound like a big complainer, like a big Debbie Downer or whatever. So take this with a grain of salt. It was one experience, one time, just from me and Emily. But there's nothing pleasant about the place. We were there, you know, on Sunday. All the businesses were closed, which just kind of blew my mind because, I mean, I get it. Some towns are religious. Like if you're in small town Texas, you're going to find a lot of businesses closed because of religion. That's not Strawberry, or Payson rather. That's not Payson. They were just closed. Just businesses were just closed for no reason. There wasn't an abundance of churches everywhere. Just a bunch of businesses like antique stores that aren't open on a Sunday. If you're not going to be open on a Sunday, don't open an antique store. But businesses were closed. Traffic was just weird. Even just the way they built the roads and the entrances and exits into the stores just made it like if you wanted a little extra annoyance throughout your day, traffic sucked. Just couldn't find a lot to really brag about. Here we go. There's some pretty flowers for y'all. Just couldn't find a lot to really brag about or appreciate there. So we decided on that trip we are never going back to Payson again. Although we may go through Payson to get to Strawberry Pine because we never did make it actually to Strawberry Pine. At least I don't think we did. Harvey said, I hate an itchy nose. Yeah, it's my whole sinuses, nose, lungs, everything feel off today. Larry said, decks sometimes take lots of sanding labor. Also, you can ask sales rep of paint companies. Take them to lunch. Sales reps are awesome resources. I agree. Cassidy said, I've not been to Verde Valley. I'll look it up. Harvey said, that sounds like a very nice app to use. I might recommend that to some of my customers. Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. Bulletproof handyman.com. Test it out. I also realized a homeowner could use that app too. If you were a homeowner and you wanted to do your own project, it's not going to give an inexperienced homeowner maybe the level of detail they would hope for. It's intended for at least a handyman, someone with general knowledge of tools, materials, fasteners, and finishes. It's intended to give that general handyman the steps that he needs, as opposed to the level of detail that an inexperienced homeowner would need. But it did occur to me, a homeowner who's comfortable with tools though, who's built a couple things here and there, could definitely use that app to just tell them what to do, how to do it, what materials to buy, how long it should take, and how much money they're saving by not hiring somebody. Ricky said, wow, you are too amazing. Thank you so much. I got to feed these kids, and once it's done, I'll be paying for it. Mostly the respect you just gave, I'll be paying. Thank you. Awesome, sir. Thank you. Cassidy said, no, it's Utah. Larry said, Cassidy. Harvey said, great view. Larry said, I recommend summertime kayaking, Verde River, Sedona hike, wine tasting, Jerome, Beaver Creek walk swimming, or many other things. Thank you, sir. Harvey said, please put the name of your app in the description. I'll see if I can pass it around. Well, it's bulletproofhandyman.com, which is definitely in the description. Now, so my project estimator tool is not specifically called out in the description, but I do call out some of my other tools and my documents and all kinds of other stuff on that website. They're all at bulletproofhandyman.com though, so pick any of my tools in the description and they're all going to take you to that same site. You just want to pick, because I have an Ask Ray tool, which is an AI that I trained on my transcripts and stuff. You can ask it questions as if you were asking me the question. And if I've answered that question in a live stream or a video or whatever, if I've answered that question, it will give you my answer. It won't guess. What it'll do is it'll give you my answer. It'll reword it, but it'll give you my answer. And then it will also give you deep links into the videos. If you're worried the AI is hallucinating and you want to hear it come out of my mouth personally, then it'll give you the links to the videos where I discuss that specific subject. So you can actually go watch me say those words if you want. That's one of the tools. I also have a tool where you can just search my entire database, which, also just gives you links, I think, that should take you into the video, drop you in right where the answer is. But where you can search my videos generally, so it's not trying to answer a question, it's just telling you what videos to go look at. I've got a tool, a more recent one that I built in the last month, called What Can a Handyman Do? And it is kind of similar to the project estimator tool. It's not just a simple AI query. It doesn't just send an AI your city and say, what can a handyman do? It utilizes multiple AIs at different levels for different reasons to keep everything sort of sandboxed in such a way that the AI but the AI will not try to save money by giving you simpler answers. It's configured in such a way that the AIs are not talking to each other and they're doing independent research, and then their conclusions are coming together into a different AI that's then kind of locking it all down, verifying claims, attaching websites and phone numbers and stuff. But am I here? Mike Neal just texted me and said my video went black. And now I need to know, Mike, if you can hear me, can you tell me that I'm back? Because when you texted me, I looked at the screen. Good now. Good, thank you. Cool. I don't know how long I was out because I don't look at me and my screen while I talk. Was I talking about the what can a handyman do tool yet? Well, I'll start on that one again anyways. The what can a handyman do tool utilizes multiple AIs that are sandboxed apart from each other, each doing independent research with a blank memory from scratch with highly specialized prompts that I built, that I used AI to help build too, by the way. Oh, you had audio, just a black screen, okay. So what it'll do is you put your city in, you verify your city, and it's gonna give you this big report that should tell you, and again, this is AI, you gotta check everything, man, but it gives you the links and the phone numbers to click and call to go check these things. But basically it's gonna tell you, number one, as far as licensing, what a handyman can and can't do in your area, like in terms of contractors licensing. Can you do plumbing? Can you do electrical? Is there a dollar limit? Things like that. Does it differentiate between jobs that do or don't require permits? It will also tell you about your business licensing, whether your state, it'll tell you what your state charges for an LLC, to process an LLC. It'll tell you what your city charges. It'll tell you whether or not the county has any paperwork you have to do. It'll give you special situations, like if you have any special, specially zoned, like business renovation zones or downtown zones, and federal properties, you know, that operate under different regulations. There's one other big one. Yeah, reservations, like Native American reservations that have different regulations, military bases, all of that. It's a pretty cool tool, and that's free as well. And then the project estimator tool, I have an overhead hourly rate calculator that's gonna help you figure out, it's gonna guide you step by step through figuring out what all your overhead is, what your break even is, how much you're paying yourself, how many hours a week you work. It's gonna put all that together into a format that you can understand and articulate, because I really firmly believe you don't have, I shouldn't say you don't have a real business, that term is overused, but you're much better off as a business owner if you can understand and articulate what your business looks like with numbers. If you don't really know your numbers, it's not a good thing. I also have a business startup estimator. Is it estimator? I don't know what the word, budget builder, business startup budget builder, something like that. Same thing, it's gonna guide you through the process of figuring out what all of your startup costs are, so you can come to a number that explains to you, how much money do I need, like starting out, what's it actually gonna take, initial investment for me to get into this, before I change over and start looking at it as ongoing overhead. What's my initial investment? So there's a lot on there, man. There's like a lot. Harvey said, make money. Yes, sir. Larry said, it's staining a deck. It's probably 2 days work. Don't overthink it. Just go. Cassidy said, thank you for the project estimator. I'll be sure to look it up and use it. Something like that comes in handy. Harvey said, cool shot. Travis said, good morning. Good morning, Travis. Sorry it took me so long to get to your comment. I'm probably way behind. Smiggles-Dawi said, sup, Ray? What's going on? Smiggle said, mine a bitch too, and hips. Oops. Back. I almost really messed up the other day. Tripping, knee is busted. Oh, that sucks. Mike said, I've been doing a wallpaper job today with paste. Client got some very expensive wallpaper, so wish me luck that I don't fuck it up. That's cool, man. I have not done wallpaper, not with paste. I've done the peel and stick wallpaper, but I have not done with paste. That's very cool. $1,200 in paper. Harvey said, I thought I had it bad. I just had a bulging disc and arthritis in my lower back and hips. I wore a 50-pound tool bag for 20 years. That'll do it. That'll do it. Smiggle said, I've been there, brother. It's a bitch. Harvey said, very large staining project. Harvey said, yes, but if you are known for tourism, you should be open. Right, exactly. It's a tourist town, literally. The whole town is a tourist town. and it's a Sunday. That's when antique shops need to be open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can close the rest of the week, but you need to be open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if you go to church, that's fine. You know, go to church Sunday morning, open your shop up at lunch. I guess unless you really believe you have to take the entire day off. But like I said, that wasn't, I didn't get a sense that this was a churchy town. I got a sense that this was a bunch of people with money from Phoenix and a bunch of business owners who just didn't do a good job of figuring out how to get the money from the rich people and into their bank accounts. Call Adrian Handyman said, good morning, brother. Starting my business in Portland. I need to look into your next camping event. Yes, sir. JTM said, hey, love your content. Thanks for all the valuable info you provide trying to start a part-time business. Hopefully with your valuable videos, I can get it off the ground. Don't hesitate. All of y'all, don't hesitate to reach out at bulletproofhandymanbusiness@gmail.com. bulletproofhandymanbusiness@gmail.com. Mike said, good luck, friend. Harvey said, got it written down now. Thank you. Edward, good morning. Edward Pitkin is in here too. Probably has been for a half hour. Harvey said, your video went out. Okay, so we caught up to that point now. JTM said, thank you, sir. Harvey said, you are here. Edward, you're back now. Harvey said 5 to 10 seconds. Harvey said, yes. Harvey said, so it gives you access to permit reports. If talking about the tool, I don't know that I would describe it that way, but kinda, yeah. Kinda. It's very little about permits specifically. And that specific tool is much more about licensing. It's about understanding what you can and can't legally do as an unlicensed handyman. And then on the other side, it just is information about getting your business licensed properly to do business. The permits is a different thing. I don't know. I could try to build something for that someday. That would be a pretty tough one because that one is damn near impossible for anybody to figure out. Even like just one job locally, calling the permit department, it's impossible to figure out how to get and close a permit. Harvey said he's never done wallpaper. Ricky's Arm Kitchen said, I've done so much drywall, but I did not know they still make and install wallpaper. Harvey said, my wife gets so mad when we drive by an antique store on Sunday and they're closed, right? That's all me and Emily do. We go antiquing, like that's our thing. We leave town. Really, the main purpose of leaving Tucson for us is to go buy old stuff from a hole-in-the-wall store in some other city. That's really the only reason we leave Tucson, is so we can go buy other people's old stuff, essentially. And then we just fill our house up with it. You go through my house, my house is two things. It's a library and it's an antique store. So when you go through my house, it's just every wall has shelves with books, and nested between the books on all the shelves are just all of the neat things that we've purchased from antique stores and thrift shops over the years. Jordan, good morning. Harvey said, we have a company that pulls all permit reports from the surrounding counties. That's good. What do you mean when you say permit reports? Is that a report from the county about what permits people applied for and received and did or didn't close? What's a specifically, I know what a permit is. What's a permit report? Or is that just like a listing of all the permits that are available along with additional information? I don't really know what a permit report is. Here in Tucson, the majority of the law is basically for electrical and plumbing specifically, and for HVAC and some other stuff, I suppose. The way the law works here is if it's under $1,000 and doesn't require a permit, a handyman can do it. Doesn't matter what it is. You just check those two boxes. First of all, you just go, does this require a permit? If it does, you can't do it without a license. If it doesn't, then you can, except you have to also check the box of, I'm going to be charging less than $1,000 for this, including materials. So if you can check those off, then you're good to go as far as getting permits here, or as far as what you're allowed to do as a handyman in Tucson. So I don't have experience with permits because, well, I do have some experience with my own house, but as a professional handyman, I don't have an experience with permits. And from what I hear around here, you know, and got to take it all with a grain of salt, but from what I hear, it's not a great experience here in Pima County, Arizona, or Tucson for that matter. But I don't have experience with that. I just hear bad stuff. What I do have experience with is when I bought my house 16. When I bought my house 16 years ago, actually 16 years ago this month, it didn't have an AC. Well, it did. It had an evaporative cooler on the roof, and I didn't want the evaporative cooler, so I ripped it off, closed up the roof, and I bought a giant 5-ton train. Man, at the time, it's a gas pack, but at the time, it was like the most efficient 5-ton train you could get. It was like SEER, you know, the SEER numbers, SERE for the efficiency. I'm gonna mess it up, but I want to say it was like SEER 23 or something crazy high. It was, they didn't make a more efficient model for residential use than a 5-ton. And I set that whole thing up. Where the hell am I going with that story? Oh, yeah. So I was from Texas, right? In Texas, if you're outside the city limits, you can do whatever you want. And you have to remember, I was a younger man. I just didn't know things that I know today. I didn't even know generally how things worked everywhere. So being from Texas, the rule is in Texas, if it's your land that you own, if it's your property, and if you're outside the city limits, because counties aren't allowed to regulate construction in Texas. So if you're outside the city limits in Texas on land you own, you can do whatever you want. It's nobody's business, except weirdly for some electrical stuff. But the electrical was already in place. So I just personally built a big old cinder block pad for it, set it down, hooked it all up. I had my, you know, my beautiful air conditioner, my beautiful brand new that I installed myself. And then one day I found out from a neighbor, you know, asked me how the permitting process was. And I was like, oh, we don't need a permit out here. We're in the county, man. And he's like, yeah, you do. And I was like, no, if you're in the county, I didn't even realize that that was a state by state thing. I just assumed, based on my history in Texas, that everywhere in the whole country, the way it was set up across the board was, if you're not in the city limits and if you own the house, you can do what you want. So I went to the permit office here because some people said they'll try to work with you. And I was like, this ain't gonna be bad. So I went to the permit office and I was like, hey guys, I am from Texas and I thought I didn't need a permit because of the way things are in Texas. And now I realize I illegally installed my air conditioner without a permit, but I was told that y'all will work with homeowners and that I can come work with you to get it permitted and get it inspected and everything on the books. And they were all friendly. They're like, yeah, that's great. So what did they give me? Yeah, they gave me, God dang, this was a long time ago. They gave me a CD, like that you listen to music on, like a DVD. They gave me a CD that has this little app on it. It's basically a spreadsheet, really. It's just like a database. But you go through this whole thing and you put in the square feet of your house and the height of the ceilings and all kinds of, it's just tons and tons of information. But a lot of the blocks that you had to fill in on this, for this information, they wanted codes because they want to know what kinds of windows you have and all sorts of other stuff, how thick your walls are, what type of insulation is in them, and everything requires a code. Well, the code can only be had through a book, that costs about $800. And I didn't have an extra $800. And I went back and I was like, do y'all have this book? Like, can I borrow this book? Because you said, you know, that you can work with me. And they're like, no, but the library has one. So call the library. And the library is like, yeah, it shows that we have that book here. Come on down and get it. So I went down to the library, went to where the book should be. The book wasn't there. And the librarian's like, oh, that sucks. I guess it's gone then, because that's where it's supposed to be. It says that we do have it, but it appears that we don't. And I'm like, all right, well, what are you going to order a new book or what? And they're like, no, that's an $800 book. We're not ordering a new $800 book just for you. And I called back the office and I was like, hey, the library doesn't have the book. And they're like, well, I guess you're just going to have to buy it for $800 then. And I just politely got off the phone with them and said, fucking never mind, I guess, because I'm not buying an $800 book for a bunch of codes for my windows. And I left it there. And I don't really have a lot to do with the city of Tucson or Pima County when it comes to permitting, because I don't have an electrical or a plumbing license. I don't do any work that requires a license, and I don't do any work that requires a permit. So that's where I'm at on all that now. Harvey said, that's what I did, metal framing and drywall. Right on. High Five said, can make a video on what a handyman can and cannot do and what job site can we work at. That's the next video, sir. Literally. I'm almost certainly, if nothing goes wrong, I'm filming that video today. I have the tool. I assume you heard me talking about it. In case you just popped in right at the last minute, though, if you go to bulletproofhandyman.com, right up near the top of that website actually is a tool called What Can a Handyman Do? That will pull a report for your city that tells you what you can and can't do as a handyman. But I'm also filming a video about that today, so you'll have a comprehensive video to go along with that tool. Harvey said, so when you pull a permit, it becomes public knowledge. Everyone in the country has the right to see all permits that have been applied for. Interesting. Victor said, right on. Harvey said, we use that information to cold call. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. I get it. I don't know that I like it, but I get it. It's business is business though, isn't it? Ace said, hell no, they want your house in tip-top shape when they take it for owed taxes. Ace said CFMs. Harvey said, our state allows every county and city to regulate their own codes, plus the state and federal. Ace said, that's what it's all about. It's all about money. All business is about money. Nobody ever started a business to not make money. Harvey said, when it comes to windows and doors, your local lumberyard can help codes for free. I need to get a little carabiner on my coffee mug. Oh, you know what else I need to do today? Yeah, I got to put that on my list. I need to schedule the next jobber webinar, the workflow webinar, and I need to schedule the next AI in the trades webinar. I also, god dang, I need to plan and execute my next jobber video, because being an ambassador with them, although I talk about them all the time anyways, I still have to specify one particular video per month, you know, to be considered to be my deliverables in exchange for my ambassadorship. Also need to do one of those for Next Insurance, which is now Ergo Next Insurance. Apparently some company called Ergo bought Next, which, by the way, it's not their fault that we're not having more campouts or cabin stays, but Next Insurance was the most reliable sponsor for these weekend networking events that I was hosting. And with Ergo having bought them, I get the feeling that they're not going to be doing that anymore. Now, that's not for sure, right? But I do get the feeling that that's not going to be the case anymore. I keep asking them if they want to sponsor another one, and they keep asking for more information, to the point now that it's feeling like they have no intention of sponsoring one. They're not reading my information. I've definitely written a book about what it is, how it works, how they benefit, what they get out of it. Like, I've shown them the charts that show that every time they sponsor one, they get a dramatic increase in clicks and conversions. I've given them everything they need, and I'm starting to feel like they just aren't interested in spending money that way anymore. So we'll see what happens. To be fair, nobody else is spending that money. It's not like they're uniquely bad. They just used to be uniquely good. And now, instead of being uniquely good, they're just really great insurance, but nothing more. Harvey said, hell yeah, carry that liquid of the gods with you at all times. I have to. I drink coffee from the moment I wake up all the way to bedtime. I take a cup of coffee to bed with me, a fresh, piping hot, just brewed cup of coffee to the bed. And I don't drink the whole thing, but I have to sip like a third of that cup or a half of that cup before I can just lay my head down and go to sleep. It's been with me. Funny story, I was in the 4th grade. My stepdad was a cabinet maker. Cabinet shop was on our land out in the country. I grew up in I was a little redneck, definitely a little redneck, little single wide trailer out in the middle of nowhere, poor as fuck. But my stepdad was a cabinet maker, had a shop on our land. And I spent my evenings in the 4th grade sanding cabinets and sweeping the shop and stuff. Like, that was just my life in the 4th grade. And I wanted to drink coffee, but I was in the 4th grade and I was told you can't drink coffee because you're in the 4th grade. And one day it occurred to me to say, if I can work like an adult, like if I can be out here sanding cabinets like a job, like an adult, I should be able to drink coffee like an adult. And my stepdad surprised me. He cut a deal and said, if you keep the coffee pot full, because back then every house had a coffee pot and every coffee pot was full. Full doesn't mean full to the top. Just keeping the coffee pot full just means more than a quarter of a pot. You get down to that quarter of a pot, that's usually burnt by that point if you always have coffee on. If you make a fresh pot in a house full of people, yeah, everybody can drink that up. But when you always have coffee on, so everybody can slow down and spread out their drinking, by the time you get down to a quarter pot, that's kind of not good coffee anymore. So you might top off your cup, dump that out, refill the coffee pot with fresh grounds and water, fill that coffee pot back up. So that's what full meant. It didn't mean full to the top, just means make it so that there's always coffee to be had. He said, if you keep that coffee pot full, you can drink coffee. But the first time I find that coffee pot empty, no more coffee for you. Man, that coffee pot never went empty again. Not if I had anything to say about it. And I started drinking coffee full time, all day, every day, into the night. I started drinking coffee full time as a 4th grader. And weirdly enough, if you look at my behavior in school, if you look at ADD and how ADD, autism, it's a whole spectrum of whatever, but if you look at my behavior patterns in school, the 3rd grade was the last grade where I got in trouble literally all year long. I did get in trouble in the 4th grade, but funny enough, in the 4th grade when I got in trouble, it was only about halfway through the year when that stopped, right about when I started drinking coffee. So very interesting. You know, it was very clear that I had some sort of ADHD type of issues going on just based on my school behavior and stuff, and my lack of paying attention and my getting obsessed with dinosaurs or whatever, like real obsession. And then started drinking coffee and it just all cleared up. But I've never stopped ever since the 4th grade. Coffee has been, I don't know what I'd do without it. Life would feel empty without my coffee. Call Adrian. Gave $5. Thank you, sir. I'll tell you what, Adrian, I always say this. Not necessary. I'm not here for y'all's money. I love money. I'll get it from the sponsors, and I'll get it from the handyman business and other things. But thank you. I've learned how to politely just say thank you. Anybody who does that, like what you just did, I'm gonna give that $5 to my wife in cash and tell her to spend it on the kids. So my kids also thank you for that. Call Adrian said, I tried Next based on your videos, but it seems they didn't want to be in the handyman business in Portland. Rates were high. I went with Simple. You probably mean Simply, but yes. Oh, Call Adrian said, for your next cup of joe. All right, you know what? If you want to dedicate that to my next cup of coffee, I will make a point to stop at, what's the name of that place? Black Rock? It's not the investment company Black Rock, but I think it is a coffee shop in town called Black Rock or Black something. Yeah, but I'll buy a cup of coffee with that. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Simply Business. I have an affiliate relationship with Simply, but I have an exclusivity with Next Insurance. I'm not surprised that they were too expensive in Portland. So, little background on the whole insurance game. There's basically 3 major underwriters for insurance. And beneath those 3 major underwriters, you have 100 or 200, God knows how many small business insurance companies. But they're all getting underwritten by the same, basically 3 underwriters. Which means if you, how do I put this? It means if you're getting, let's say you go get 3 estimates, like you get 3 quotes from 3 different small business insurance companies. If all 3 of those companies are using the same underwriter, you're gonna find in the ballpark of the same pricing. And then if you get 3 other quotes and they're all from a different underwriter, even though you don't know that they are, you feel like they're from different companies, but you get 3 more quotes from 3 different underwriters, and they're all, or sorry, from 1 other underwriter. They'll all seem relatively similar. Each company, of course, has its own overhead and business model and markup, so they're going to be slightly different. They're going to ask you different questions to try to come to figure out. Edward said Black Rifle. It's not Black Rifle. They don't have any stores here. I wish they did. But whatever's in Tucson, it's not Black Rifle. It's Black Rock, I think. But, yeah, and they'll ask you different questions. The thing to be careful with is oftentimes the cheapest option is cheap because they're not covering anything. And I'll give you a good example, although I can't remember the company name. And I probably wouldn't say it anyways because I don't want to hurt any companies, especially for something that was years ago. But I went to one and they didn't ask a lot of questions. This was when I was trying to figure out what insurance. I was already with Next because Next was just kind of like the understood general option that everybody used. So I was already with Next, but I was trying to understand the whole market and I wanted to go get a lot of quotes from different companies and compare them. And this one could have been Simply, could have been somebody else. It was one of the cheaper ones. I noticed that they didn't ask near as many questions. They had like a 5-question thing where basically if you said handyman, you know, they asked you what your annual revenue was going to be and stuff. And I think they asked you if you did roofing and one other thing, but very few questions. They didn't ask about electrical. They didn't ask about plumbing. They didn't ask about so many things that the other guys had asked about. And then I went and looked at their exclusions, because every insurance policy you get is going to have exclusions. It's going to say your insurance will not apply in these situations. And I read the exclusions, and basically you couldn't touch anything electrical or plumbing. I mean, not even, there's always gray area as to how you define electrical or plumbing. Like, is a faucet considered plumbing? Is it a fixture, or is it plumbing? Is an outlet electrical, or is it just the wiring in the wall? I've got my own answers for that. Everybody has their own answers for that. But long story short, I guess, is the cheap insurance that I had gotten, or that I'd gotten a quote for when I went and looked at the exclusions, it essentially covered nothing. I couldn't get on a roof, like couldn't get on any roof at all, couldn't get on any ladder with my feet more than 6 feet off the ground, couldn't touch light fixtures or even light bulbs for that matter. Nothing electrical at all, period, end of story. Nothing plumbing at all. And it was so, there was even like regulations on painting, like types of painting that wouldn't be covered. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is, get a good price, make sure you know what you're paying for though. And if you're getting what you want, that's very good, but don't go paying, you'd rather pay $90 a month for insurance that does cover you than $70 a month for insurance that doesn't. So just make sure you get the insurance. And to be clear, me and Next Insurance, we don't track sales. It doesn't matter. What they want to see is me sending people to them to get a quote. And I kind of make this clear to all of my sponsors on this channel. I consider it to be my job to get people to their front door. I deliver people who are showing up and saying, hey, Ray Duke recommended you, and he gave me a whole bunch of value for free on his YouTube channel and his website, and I told him I would come and just get a quote. I'll let you sell me on your product or service. And that's all I consider it to be my job to do, is to get you to the front door. But once you're there, it's on the company to have a compelling enough offer for you to take advantage of. So I don't care who you guys ultimately spend your money with. My only job is just to sort of inform you and just say, hey, these guys support the channel, and because they support the channel, and because I've vetted them, you should go check them out. And Next Insurance does still support the channel 100%. Just because they're not paying extra money for campouts doesn't mean they're not supporting the channel. I still can't do what I do without them. That's a weird, it looks like a gas line, but that's kind of a weird way to just have a random gas line sticking out of the ground right next to the road. Call Adrian said, you're the only reason I'm going with Jobber as soon as I can afford it. Right on. I think Jobber's the best. I mean, two things I can honestly say as far as sponsors go. Next Insurance and Jobber I have been with this entire time. So there was a short period of time where my insurance lapsed and I was broke, and I went and got Simply for like 1 month or maybe 2 months, and then right back over to Next Insurance. But I have been with and been happy with Jobber and Next Insurance this whole way through. Mike said, Jobber is 100% worth it. See, there you go. I agree. I think, any CRM is better than no CRM, first and foremost. So if you're trying to make that choice, just simply, do I purchase a CRM? You have to. If you really want to keep good track of your business, understand the status of all your jobs, and have all of that data, and that data is priceless. Especially when you get a few years experience under your belt, you're going to be able to go back and use the data that you built up over time to build your business better. But the CRM is paramount. And then if you're going to have a CRM, I just really feel like Jobber's the one. House Call Pro's not bad. It really isn't. And as far as I can tell, I don't go check out House Call Pro once a month to see where they're at, but I check into them every now and then. I honestly do want to know who's the best. And House Call Pro, as far as I can tell, it feels like the difference between I don't know if y'all love photography, but you know, I'm a Canon person. I actually did have a really nice Nikon once because I came into possession of a $10,000 night vision lens that only worked on a Nikon camera. Not that I'm sure there's adapters you could buy, but I came into possession of this $10,000 night vision lens. So I went and bought a Nikon just for that lens. But otherwise, I'm a Canon guy. I know Canon. I like Canon. Canon does a great job. Nikon does a great job. Same thing with tools. You know, you get a few DeWalt batteries. Well, now it makes sense to just keep buying more DeWalt tools. And when you get more DeWalt tools, you need more DeWalt batteries. So you end up on a platform, you know. And I think House Call Pro is probably fine. I've never used it like to run my business, but House Call Pro and Jobber seem to be, if people argue over them, it's like arguing between Canon and Nikon. One of them might have a feature today that the other doesn't have, but they're both sort of just leapfrogging each other. I do think Jobber's AI functionality is better than House Call Pro's, or it was last time I checked. But make sure you got a CRM either way. Mike said they have saved me so much money by how they keep track of invoices. I never forget who owes me money. Yeah, and you never forget anything. So, and I'll tell you, one of my policies is when I get a new job, I don't schedule that job right away, but I do put it in Jobber right away. And, you know, it's kind of like if you're trying to manage stuff with pen and paper and spreadsheets or notes or whatever, it's easy to forget something. It's easy to get a call on the road and tell yourself, yeah, when I get where I'm going, I need to, you know, make a note on this. So what I do is when a job comes in, no matter what it is, any kind of request at all, I just put it in Jobber. And then I know it's there. Once it's there, then my system, because I have a system of how and when I put jobs into Jobber, get them assigned out, do my scheduling and all of that. So as long as I put the job into Jobber right away, then it cannot slip through the cracks. It's going to be tracked every step of the way. And I'm always going to have this visual reference every step of the way showing me what the status is of everything that everyone has requested from me. Which, if you're a business, is kind of priceless, and you just kind of have to have it. Dotted TME, the lens sounds like it was obtained in Afghanistan. Could be wrong. It wasn't obtained in Afghanistan, believe it or not. Well, let me rephrase. I was in Afghanistan when I obtained it, but it didn't come from Afghanistan. It came from elsewhere. And, you know, my dumbass, of course, I'm admitting to breaking the law here, but I don't think anybody's going to come back and try to prosecute me 17 years later. I had it shipped to me in Afghanistan. And the reason that's crazy, hold on, this fucking dog. You're the only one that ruins my hike in the morning. You're the only one. I'm gonna get past this dog before I finish the story. So, I'm an idiot, first and foremost. I just want to point this out. There's no good decisions that were made in this story. But Reaper, which is a drone, very common drone these days, not even the top of the heap anymore. But at the time, Reaper and Global Hawk were at the top of the heap. And Reaper had arrived in Afghanistan, and I knew it had because I'd watched it. My drones that I was working, because I was a field service engineer, so my flight line with my drones and my guys, we were literally next door to the CIA, where they had the Predators. Well, all of a sudden, Reaper shows up, only at night, only on like moonless nights, but you can still see enough to see that there's a Reaper there. So Reaper shows up. They're sending like crews up and down the flight line, making everybody go inside, you know, at like 9, 10, 11, 12 p.m. Everybody's got to go inside, shut the windows, shut the curtains, and they're taking off with Reaper. So I see it because I'm right there next to the CIA. And on the news, they're saying Reaper is not in Afghanistan. And I'm like, well, like the government is officially saying, no, Reaper's not in Afghanistan. And I'm sitting there looking at Reaper in Afghanistan. And then they finally go, okay. Reaper is in Afghanistan, but it's not carrying bombs. It's only carrying cameras. We're only using it for surveillance. And I'm watching it take off with like 6 500-pounders and come back empty over and over and over. And so, but they were only taking off and landing at night when it was literally almost pitch black. So I ordered a night vision lens. Well, just shouldn't say ordered. I found and procured a night vision lens, and it was a lens that was perfectly legal to have, to order and own and have inside the United States of America, but it was illegal to ship it out of the United States of America without special permits because it was regulated as arms. I don't remember what kind of arms, but there was a whole regulatory framework that made it illegal, so I shipped it to myself anyways through a third party. And then I took video of Reaper in Afghanistan. I'm getting paid 150 grand a year to be a field service engineer. You know, my whole life had changed because of this job. And here I am in Afghanistan making sugar wine, smuggling in Bailey's Irish cream, which could get me kicked out of the country, ordering illegal night vision lenses, and taking video of like top secret, at the time, top secret drones that the government was, you know, saying wasn't in country. And not only was it, but it was carrying bombs and coming back empty every day. So I was quite an idiot, really. But that's why I had to buy the Nikon, was because the lens, it was like a $10,000 lens that I got for like $3 grand. It just had a few pixels out, basically. But I didn't really care about the pixels out. I wasn't trying to make a Hollywood film. I was just trying to capture, you know, what I was seeing. So I was a big idiot. Big idiot. Bard Clay, good morning. Good to see you in here, sir. Dotted TME said statute of limitations, my friend. I figure that's probably up by now, but you never know, man. The government likes to give themselves an unlimited, you know, it's like the IRS. They can come after you for money you owe from 20 years ago, but you can't go after them for money they owe you from 3 years ago. Icy Man said, good morning, gentlemen. We meet again. Good morning. It is a nice morning. Man, you know what would be amazing? I need to buy some land over here. It's going to be too damn expensive, but in lieu of a ranch, I want a ranch, don't get me wrong, but if I could just get, I know y'all can't really see much, but like this piece of property over here is kind of farm property. It's also technically, I happen to know that it's horse property, so that means legally you can have horses on this property over here. But there is some land in my vicinity where, yeah, it wouldn't be my ranch just yet, but I could just go a few blocks down from my house to access my actual land and do some real cool, important things on my actual land. Robert said, clouds coming in Colorado. Clouds, huh? Mike said, coffee's gone. I should get the day started. Take care, everyone. Yeah, I'm almost home, too. You have yourself a good day, Mike. Test out my estimator if you get some time, sir. I currently don't have any plans on making any changes on that estimator today, but I definitely will still need to be making some changes. I'm certain that it's not its final, finished, polished version yet. Although it is damn good. Y'all go use it and tell me what you think. Play with my 𝗪𝗪𝗪 a little bit today. Do any of y'all know about the 𝗪𝗪𝗪? Oh, interesting. Good idea, Mike. Do a test with the wallpaper. Yeah, that's going to be a great idea, actually, because, you know, that's a fringe case, and it's the fringes where I need this thing to work. It's easy to price a doorknob or a deadbolt. Oh, by the way, my biggest client wants estimates. They want to switch over all of their houses, and I think they're up close to like 2,000 doors now. They want to switch over all 2,000 doors to a new electronic deadbolt system, and they want estimates from everybody with pricing on doing that. Now, I will say this, odds are they're going to go with the cheapest bidder, and that ain't going to be me. So I'm not going to put a lot of time into it, but I will put enough time into it so that when the cheapest bidder, when they start realizing that the cheapest bidder maybe wasn't the right choice, and they go back to look at the other bidders, I do still want my estimate to be a high quality one that they feel comfortable saying yes to. So I'll do a decent job, but I'm not gonna get all desperate about it and put a full day into it. And I'll use my 𝗪𝗪𝗪 to help me figure it all out, which I've already kind of been doing. All right, guys. Well, I am home. There's that beautiful flag. Love you guys. Hope you're out there killing it. And I'll see y'all on the next one.